Hello and welcome to another episode of Awakening Unfiltered. I am your host, Erica Barreto. Today we are going to be touching on mediumship and understanding energy. And I want to ask you this question. How many times have you heard about stuck spirits? When I tell you I hear about this so much within the spiritual community with different mediums, and I think what it comes down to is the interpretation and understanding exactly what that energy is. So we're here to talk about that today, okay? So if you've been interested, you're trying to understand the mechanics of mediumship, maybe you're just wanting to understand what happens, right? What is the perspective? What is the viewpoint from a medium's perspective? We're here to talk about that. And it's a very touchy situation because every time I see this being brought up in the spiritual community, it brings up so much traction because you have a lot of people putting in their own bias. There's just a lot that is put into this. And I think that what people need to understand about mediumship is that as a medium, you are there to translate. You're not there to control anything. Actually, the more you let go, the more you surrender, guess what? The more information comes through to the spirit world because we are not trying to control the situation and we are not putting an expectation on the outcome of what it is we think that we're supposed to receive. Because as the medium, you are a telephone, you are a channel, and you are not there to control what spirit gives you. We're there to give what they are giving to us. We are there to give whatever is being translated through the energy. So another thing is that people try to understand what exactly is the energy? How can we feel it? How can we sense it? So if you follow me already on my social platforms, you know that my number one thing that I do for everybody is teach them their clairs. I love to teach people about understanding their psychic abilities, understanding the clairs, because in truth, that is the foundation of how we start this. It is the foundation of where you begin to understand how communication is through symbols, through signs, through energy. And that's where it starts. You get that foundation of understanding your psychism. And then if you want to tap in and learn more about your mediumship, you absolutely can. Because although we can all do this, we can all tap into this ability to communicate with spirit. Is it something everybody wants to do? No. There's so much to unfold, so much to unravel, okay? Because a lot of the times people don't move into mediumship because of fear. And when I teach mediumship, I'm teaching you from a very grounded space, okay? I'm teaching you from a place of neutrality. I'm teaching you from a place of not involving your bias into your mediumship, into your work. Because anytime we meet a client, anytime I meet a client, I am not putting my own 2 cents in when it comes to me putting information in based on my biases, my belief systems. I am there to give them whatever spirit is giving to me. And that's where I think a lot of things really get confused when it comes to understanding the energy of the spirit world and how we translate and interpret that. And one of the things, again, we're going to go back to stuck spirits because that is something that has been coming up a lot. And people are like, well, the spirit world is not all love and bubblegum and flowers and butterflies. And here's the thing. For you to understand the spirit world, you need to understand energy. Yes, there is a duality of energy. Absolutely. In our human experience, we are going to experience that duality, that dark and that light. That dark is going to represent our shadows, right? It's going to represent the parts of us that we don't really want to look at, the parts that bring shame, the parts that bring up emotions that re-traumatize us and bring us back to a place that we didn't like so much. That is the shadow aspect. That is the duality of being a human. And then we go into that light. Just think about a spiritual awakening. Most people who start their spiritual awakenings, you're going to start from a place of chaos, right? You're going to feel like your world is crashing down. You're losing everything. You don't understand anything. Everything that you once learned is now being kind of disheveled in the mind. It's like an illusion. So you're waking up to a reality of a different world, a different perspective. And what happens there is we come from that darkness. We come from that pain. We come from the depths of hell, so be it, okay? So you do experience that darkness, that spectrum of the dark, the shadow, but you move into that light. You move into understanding that you need to change the energy in order for you to be able to open the path for yourself. So there's the duality of experiencing it on that human level. So people will say, well, there's a heaven, a hell, and there's a purgatory. But to understand these things is to understand an energy. Everything, I feel like everybody learns, everybody needs to have this perspective of a place and time. But that is not how the spirit world works. Everybody goes to the same side. There is no difference in how the person passes over, whether they take themselves to the other side, whether they are someone who has passed away from a traumatic experience, right? Or maybe somebody took them to the other side. It doesn't matter how they pass. They all go to the other side. A lot of times, the interpretation that is coming through, that the mediums bring through, right, that are not properly developed, they're picking up on this dark, dense, heavy energy. So a lot of the times, if you are not developed properly, you're going to interpret that in a way where that spirit is going to feel like they're stuck. They're going to feel like they're in a heavy, dark place. But as a medium, it is up to us to deliver that information with compassion to the people that we read for, okay? Spirit is going to give us this information and it's going to feel heavy. It's going to feel dense, and it's going to feel dark. But the truth of the matter is what we are picking up there is residue, okay? We are picking up on the information of what their life was at the moment up to when they passed over onto the other side. Experiences in their life, whether they had addiction, mental health issues, right? There's so many different things that can go on in a soul's life before they transfer over. But most times the way that we are supposed to interpret this as a medium is giving it to the sitter as them understanding this is how they were in life. Would you understand that they experienced a lot of mental health issues? They also suffered from addiction. Would you understand that they just didn't like talking to people, right? And this is how we will present that information in a compassionate way and also in a professional and an ethical way. And this is why it's so important to vet your readers. It's so important to see how they read, because you can fall upon somebody who, one, they're asking you for an intake form. Okay, they're asking you for information prior to the reading, that they want to know who you are, send them a picture. Listen, as a medium who is properly developed, you don't need any of that. Anybody can come to your website, they can sign up, they can put a fake name, they can put a fake address, whatever it is. You can even have your camera off, because a lot of times, I don't know if you've seen a lot of people who read online. Some people do readings on TikTok, on Instagram, and we don't necessarily see who we're reading for. Right? We can have a fake picture with a fake profile name, but we're able to tap into the energy. Why? Because everything is energy and energy is always around us. That's what we do as humans with our intuition and really tapping into that other sense, that other realm of things. We are tapping into different frequencies because it is everywhere all at once. When spirit goes to the other side, they go straight to the other side. The things that we pick up is that residual energy. So then another question that always comes up is, whoa, but what about the hauntings? What about the paranormal things? What about the evil spirits, the demons, the poltergeist, all that stuff, right? What is that? If that's not spirit, then what is it? The thing is, the easiest way for me to explain this is that is residual energy. Think about that energy like you walked into a room. There was an argument that just occurred, maybe a fight, right? You go into that room and you can still feel the energy. You can sense that tension and almost cut it with a knife because it's heavy. You can feel it all around you and it makes you uncomfortable. It is a fragment of energy. It is a residual energy that is left over, and that is the same thing that is presented to us when we go, let's say, into a place. I'm going to give you an example, okay? So about last year, I went to Vegas and I was getting interviewed on a podcast. And the thing here is that we went to this hotel. It was the Luxor. And when I tell you, I didn't like the energy at all in Vegas. I didn't like it. I liked the strip, but I did not like the energy in the hotel. I didn't like the fact that there was no windows. It just wasn't my vibe. And yeah, I did sense some scary, dark, dense, heavy energy. I was getting a lot of visuals in my mind through my clairvoyance. I was picking up on the energy imprint of what had happened there. Fragments of time. Again, another stamp of time. There is no time on the other side. Everything happens all at once, okay? So that's another thing we can get into on another episode. to understand that energy and to be able to translate that. Maybe another person would have been scared. They would have been creeped out. They would have been going through all kinds of things and saying, oh my goodness, I'm not comfortable here. This place is haunted. And you can bring in tools, you can bring in all kinds of things, and you can pick up on the energy that's in that space, because that space is holding on to it. The soul is on the other side. They're already in that space of reflection. They're already in that space of learning. And it comes from a place of non-judgment. It is not what you think. It is not what you're being taught. And this is removing that religious lens. This is looking at it from a place of neutrality and just understanding the energy. It could be hard to understand it and grasp it unless you are the one that is doing the mediumship and you are understanding the differences through the types of readings that you do. It comes from experience. It comes from understanding that the different souls that we pick up on for the different people that we read for, it is something that we need to express in a way of bringing through that compassion so that we don't leave people in a place of more harm. We don't want to push fear. We don't want to re-traumatize them. Mediumship is about healing, right? Mediumship is about bringing the client to a place of understanding the continuity of life after life. That's what this is about. And I think that when people understand the mechanics of mediumship and how we get to that space, there is frequencies that we have to tap into. So for instance, we are always in this beta state. That beta state is going to be where we are every day doing our normal everyday tasks. Then you want to understand the alpha, then the theta state. So that alpha state is going to be like that beginning state that you kind of see a medium getting into their awareness so that they start to really tap into the spirit world, because it's almost like a very light meditative state, a very daydream type of state. Then as you move deeper into that awareness, you then tap into that theta state. Now, when you are in this theta state, that theta state is where you make that deep connection with spirit, because the theta state is almost that deep, deep meditative state. Okay, this is where you get your intuition. This is where your creativity comes up. And this is where the spirit communication will start. Now, the next level is delta, and delta is where trance mediumship occurs. This is that deep sleep state. Okay, this is where we are separating our consciousness. This is another modality of mediumship that, people are interested in doing. Trance is another form of channeling where the spirit takes the front seat while you, the medium, takes the back seat, and they just they can move through you. I mean, it's a whole thing. So it's just different modalities of mediumship and just really understanding the communication, understanding how it's done, understanding the energy. And I think it's just, some people just want to believe that there is just this darkness on the other side, and it's just, there's nothing that exists. And, I never push my beliefs onto people. You'll never find me arguing with anybody because it's just not worth the time. I know based on my experience, and that alone is it. I don't need confirmation and validation from anything, anyone, because I know through the experiences, through the readings that I've done over time. And, mediums are human too. Sometimes we make a great connection, and sometimes the connection could be a little sketchy. It could be a little, because it's us as the medium, the channel. We may be going through some things. We may have our own mental things that we're dealing with. We may be dealing with physical ailments. There's a lot that comes into doing this work. You need to be grounded, you need to be attuned, and you need to be in a place of openness, and your awareness needs to be intact so that you can make the communication with the other side for your client. A good medium will definitely either refer you out, they will refund you your money, or they will reschedule you. And I think that says a lot, especially when a medium can say, well, you know what, I don't think this is going to work today because I don't know, I just don't feel good about this. My energy's not really up there. They can admit to that. And they're not blaming the spirit world for not making the connection, because it's not the spirit world. They're always there. They're always there. Now, when it comes to booking a reading with a medium, I would say the best thing for you to do, especially if you just lost somebody, I always recommend that people book a reading maybe 4 to 6 months after, because you're going through the grief process. Spirit knows, they understand this. They're there by our sides as we are going through the grief process. But I think for you to be more open and just in a more relaxed state and not having the heaviness of grief on you, it is best to wait 4 to 6 months to get a reading from a medium if this is what you're wanting to do. Okay. And waiting in between, right? Not making it a thing where you want to schedule a reading every 2 weeks, because that's also not healthy. Space out your readings, and you definitely want to wait some time if somebody did pass over. And it's not that the spirit isn't available, because I've read people that the spirit has come through the same day that they passed, which is, they're like, oh my goodness, they just passed away like this morning or yesterday. It's possible. It is very possible. It is just up to the client. It's up to the energy, right? Because what we're taught is there is a triangle, and the triangle is what it looks like for us to make that communication with spirit. It takes us, the sitter, and then the spirit up at top to make that proper communication. And you have to have an open heart and an open mind. Skepticism is always welcomed as long as you are open, as long as you are not closed off, because remember, everything is an energy thing. It's energy. So imagine if you're closed off in the energy, it's not going to be really easy to kind of read, because there's going to be a lot of, like, I want to say it's like a pull and a tug of energy. So it's uncomfortable for the medium, and it might be uncomfortable for you as well. So those are just some things to understand and just know when it comes to booking a reading, understanding the mechanics behind the mediumship. So again, it's just about the translation. It's just about understanding the energy. It's about the development that you receive to understand the difference in these types of energies. I have a background in law enforcement, so I tend to pick up on a lot of souls that have passed away in very traumatic ways by other people's hands, or missing people. That's another one that comes up. They'll show things. They will show how they passed, and it will be quite traumatic, but it's up to the medium, again, to be able to translate that information in a way that they are not traumatizing the client, because it is an ethical way of giving the information without putting them in a space of reliving or visualizing what has happened. It's a big responsibility. So I just wanted to make this episode to kind of talk about that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. That is all I have for you till next time.